Hi, my name is Simba and welcome to my stroke channel.
Can you share a bit about your stroke journey and what the recovery process has been like for you?
Well, my stroke journey started on June the 6th, 2019. It started with what they call a thunderclap headache whilst I was asleep. No warnings whatsoever. I got a very, you know, sharp headache. I think they call it thunderclap for a reason. So I woke up my partner as I couldn't feel my left hand, couldn't move it actually. So I had to wake my partner up with my right hand. And I told her straight away to call the ambulance service based on things I'd seen on TV adverts stating that the more person you save, the quicker you respond. So I told her I think I'm having a stroke because my can't move my arm. That's when she called the ambulance service and they came in. Unfortunately, the hospital that I was meant to go to had a fire with a CT scan, if I'm not mistaken. So they took me to a further out hospital where I was stabilized there and then took me to my area's hospital where they deal with major incidents, major injuries and stuff. So at that moment, I think when I got to that hospital, um, they put me in a medical induced coma, and I was there for about I was in a coma for about 1.5 weeks, and the issue was that because I had had a hemorrhagic stroke, the brain was a blood vessel that burst, and what they had to do was relieve the pressure when the blood is filling up in the brain. So they do, I think it's called a craniotomy or something like that. So they cut uh, half of my skull and obviously drain the blood and alleviate the pressure that will be building up whilst the head is expanding. So all this would have happened whilst I was now in a medically induced coma. Um, oh, oh, can you expand? Do I need to expand on anything?
Which is your recovery process?
Okay, my recovery process was just based on going to stroke rehab after I woke up. I think I spent a couple of more weeks in in the stroke unit, and I then got moved to a stroke rehab place, which I didn't really get the rehab that I was expecting to get and that I was promised based on a couple of different things. Because I think they're talking about staffing issues and stuff. So I never really got full blown physio during that time. So I think after a couple of months, I went back home where I then started physio, another home based unit, which didn't really last for long because straight after that, I think I'd been in the rehab for quite some time. So when I came out, I was getting close to the time where COVID actually happened. So they were also complaining of staffing issues and mentioning that ideally they should have been there three home for physio 3 days a week, of which they couldn't based on not having enough staff. So I then took it upon myself to learn a couple of things that they're teaching me and work with my partner on trying to see the best way I could do it. Because then again, she's not a physio. Uh, she couldn't do certain things, but she tried as much as she could. So we then started trying to walk in the hallway, quite a very long hallway. We'll just hold hands in a safe place because this is also the time where I still didn't have my cranioplasty put back in. So the brain would have been a bit exposed. So I had to be very careful on whatever movements I'll be making. So we would walk and push as much as we can, which is what I generally thought would have been happening with occupational therapy. But then again, since COVID hit, everyone was shielding, and it would have been worse if I had actually gotten ill because of people coming in and out and what. So we just had to move with whatever we could deal with it. But then I did push myself to a point where I could use an aid. Um, aid that I have is this quad stick. I still use it. This quad stick here, I still use it, and because I haven't gotten full control of my left leg, this whole left side is I was the one that was affected since the right side of my brain controls the left side of my body. That's something that I learned over time, which happens. So,
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your recovery and how did you overcome them?
well, the challenges were, like I explained earlier, uh, not having enough physio. And I think if I could have had uh, a push, because during those times, I think there's a very short window, they say. Some were saying 3 weeks, some were saying 6 months, some can say a year. But then within all that, I really never got proper physio, which I think I did need. So whilst they say when you have a brain injury, your brain is still, it tries to reconnect. I think they call it neuroplasticity, where the neurons start trying to find new neural pathways of connect, so you function. But so if I had been pushing with physio, um, I think the brain would have learned that I'm using my faculties in in a proper way, and probably would have gained more strength as time went. Yeah.
What role did family and friends play in your recovery and how important was their support?
For family and friends, who obviously play a massive role. My partner played the biggest role for even till today, and obviously I had my dad who came in helping out. I had carers, and when they're not there, sometimes I'd have family members coming and visiting and just giving me, you know, uh, conversations, and you know, we'll talk and just not, you know, be alone. Of which, once you in a scenario like that, you're starting to learn yourself, and you tend to cocoon yourself and not want to bring yourself out to the outside world based on the fears that you have of you not being the normal person you were before. So yeah, family did help, and some would call quite a lot. I got an aunt who still generally checks up on me every time. She plays a big role in giving me a lot of conversation. And I have my brother and his family who usually visit, and they were visiting during those times as well. So it did play a massive role. I would speak to my mom on the phone as she wasn't based in the area during that time. So yeah, they do play a big role.
Are there any misconceptions about strokes or recovery that you'd like to address?
Yeah, I think that the ones I can just think of the top of my head uh, would be that most people just generally think that it is true and not true at the same time, that stroke patients are usually older, because I had my stroke when I was 29, just about to turn 30, and I've heard of younger people even having strokes. I've not met any, but I've heard of stories like that. So generally, anyone can have a stroke. As I was fit before playing sport, uh, moving about normally, and by just one freak accident, I then ended up just being, you know, disabled from being a very normal person. Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who has just experienced a stroke and is starting their recovery journey?
I would say the best thing is uh, try to find information on people who've had the same stroke as you've had. Get a bit more information on how their recovery was, what they did, and if not, just push as much exercise as you possibly can, so you get as strong as possible. But sometimes it does take time. I do get that you'll be tired, stressed, what, but the more you push, the less stress you get if you don't end up being disabled. So I'd rather you find someone who's probably gone through the same thing you've actually just gone through, then see how better you probably can formulate a plan for your own recovery.
How has your perspective on life changed since your stroke?
So funny enough, I don't have fear of death. Yeah, because I think I was pretty close to it, and for some reason I feel like I know where I'm going, and I don't have a fear of death. But the key is I need to live life to the fullest. Make sure that I do everything I can to live the best life I can. That's literally how I'm trying to manage life. But it definitely has changed my beliefs in things like religion and all that in different ways. That's a whole personal thing. But I don't think I would need to speak about that.
Are there any resources, communities, or tools that you found particularly helpful during your recovery that you recommend to others?
Um, well, there are tools that are available, like um, the Stroke Association, who deal with stroke patients. Um, I didn't actually engage them till later on, so I knew about them, but the reasons why I didn't actually engage them till fairly recently. So I think it would be wise to do your own research, have family members try to find out the best thing. But the key is to actually try find people who've gone through the same thing you've gone through. I think that would be the easiest. So you kind of figure out where you go next.
What lifestyle changes have you made after your stroke and how have they helped you?
Oh, the thing is, there's not too much in terms of moving around, because I don't move around a lot. I try, but because of my disability, things have become so limited. Things that I want to do, one thing comes after another. But the idea is just to keep on living and try to keep your health as pinpoint as possible, and not let mental health bother you.
Were there any key turning points in your recovery that made a big difference for you?
Yeah, the turning point was the part where we just decided to take my own recovery in my own hands and just move on and just do what we could on our own. Because we noticed that during that time there was no one there, so that was a key turning point. Otherwise, I probably would not have been able to even use my aid or walk around and move around a bit. But yeah, that was a key turning point.
How did you handle the emotional side of recovery and what helped you the most?
Well, I think, like I said, I think I know where I'm going once I pass on. So as soon as I got told that this is what I'm going to be like, I feel like I had already accepted the whole thing before I even woke up. I know that sounds strange, but I kind of decided that I'm going to try see from a very early age. I wanted to try figure out if I can see how I can help people who've just gone through the same situation as I've been. And I think after being a stroke survivor, you yourself would know certain things that even uh, medical people would not know, because the general thing that happens is they tend to ask you what you need, what you're doing. It used to bother me during the first times they started doing that, but I noticed that as time goes on, you tend to know what you need more than they do. So always push and keep pushing your GP or wherever you are, and the key is to never stop.
And finally, what do you plan to achieve with this channel?
Well, the idea of the channel is probably to try and make a safe place for people to come over and see my journey and possibly just talk and see if we can have a small little remote community where people can just be themselves, chat around, and ask for different uh, talk about different stories and see if we can help each other in our stroke journey, be it family members that are struggling with their loved ones that have stroke. Just talking about it sometimes helps, or sometimes people forget that the people who are taking care of you actually do have a lot on their plate. So yeah.